What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, Detroit Lions fans are very picky about who they like on their football team. If you're not playing well for this team, Detroit Lions fans will let you know, and they will call for your head immediately. That's happened with many players in the past, and that continues to be the case now with the 2021 regime. However, there are a couple of players that a lot of Lions fans want us to release. There are a lot of players that have a very strong case of being released in this offseason, a very strong case of being cut from this team, and the Lions moving on from said player. And in today's video, I wanted to go over my top 3 players that I believe the Detroit Lions need to cut as the offseason begins and as this new regime begins to take over this new look Lions franchise. Before we get into talking about the 3 players the Detroit Lions need to cut going into the 2021 season, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying this Detroit Lions content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of every day to do so. It's quick, it's free, it's easy. It would help the channel out more than you could know. So if you could take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe, I'd be super appreciative for it. But with all of that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into the 3 players that the Detroit Lions have to cut before the kickoff of 2021. Now, there are no shortages of bad contracts on the Detroit Lions. Big V, Desmond Trufant, Nick Williams, Jamie Collins even. There's quite a few not great contracts on the Detroit Lions. However, not everybody we can move on from yet. Big V is a guy that if I could, I would definitely move on from that contract. However, it's just not feasible at this point in time, so he will not be making this list. However, one of the players I did mention in Desmond Trufant is a guy that Detroit Lions should absolutely release before the kickoff of 2021's training camp. Now, Desmond Trufant is obviously a cornerback for the Detroit Lions and was signed just this past offseason to a 2-year, $20 million deal. Now, when Desmond Trufant came into Detroit, he had a lot of hype and he had a lot of fans surrounding him saying he was going to be the Darius Slay replacement. He was going to be the guy to take over Darius Slay's spot, and he was going to pick up where Darius Slay left off. Now, that was not quite the situation Desmond Trufant had, and that is not quite exactly what happened with Desmond Trufant. In the 2020 season, Desmond Trufant, playing in only a few NFL football games, allowed a 68.8% completion percentage against him, allowed 259 passing yards on him with 3 passing touchdowns in his direction, while allowing a 111.3 passer rating against him in just 5 games. Now, if the Detroit Lions were to cut Desmond Trufant in this offseason, they would gain about $6,187,000 in cap space. They would lose just under $6 million in dead cap. However, they would be freeing up over $6 million in cap space available. This would allow the Lions to move on from a bad contract and just in general a not great cornerback. Desmond Trufant's aging, he's regressing, and while I appreciate the effort he did give in Detroit, I do think it is time to move on, and I do think this was a poor signing by the Lions. This was a poor contract by the Detroit Lions, and at this point in time, I will take Okudah, I will take Amani, I will take Justin Coleman, and I might even put Mike Ford in a starting position before I allow Desmond Trufant back on the field. So with that being the case, I believe cutting Desmond Trufant, getting that $6.2 million back in cap space will give the Lions a little bit more wiggle room in free agency, will give the Lions a little bit more space to work with when it comes to re-signing players they actually want to re-sign, and I believe it's just time for the Detroit Lions to admit their flaw, admit their mistake, and for Brad Holmes to start cleaning up Bob Quinn's mess. The next player I believe the Detroit Lions absolutely need to release this offseason is another player that was signed in this last offseason by the Lions, and that is defensive tackle tackle Nick Williams. Now, Nicholas Williams was signed to a 2-year contract last season by the Detroit Lions, and to say he was underwhelming would be an understatement. Nick Williams on the season only totaled 23 total tackles, 1 sack, and 2 tackles for loss. To me, he is at best the defensive tackle 4 on the team, maybe defensive tackle 5, depending on how you feel about Kevin Strong. To me, he's probably closer to tackle 5. I'll take Danny Shelton. I'll take John Pennicini. I'll take Deshaun Hand. I'll even take Kevin Strong over Nick Williams at this point. And truthfully, he really didn't show up this year. He really didn't show up in the big moments, didn't really get the sack production that we expected him to get, and really last season didn't show the flashes he had shown the season prior when he had his breakout 6-sack campaign. Now, if we were to release Nick Williams, that would free up about $4.6 million in cap space, with very, very limited dead cap along with it. So I believe with, if you're not going to play a guy, if your guy is the 5th defensive tackle on the depth chart, he should not be making $5-6 million a year. That is just not something that should happen. That is not something that should be a part of this Lions organization. A reason the Lions have been bad for so many years is bad contracts and paying borderline average or below average players above average money, and money that they have not earned nor do they deserve. Nick Williams, I believe, is one of those guys, and while I think he would be an okay rotational guy, an okay depth piece for this Detroit Lions team, you cannot pay your 5th defensive tackle $5 million or more a season to not play in the game. Now, the third player on this list is not a guy that I think the Lions need to get rid of, but it is a guy that I think the Lions can remove from the roster and upgrade over in this free agency class or in this draft class, if not with somebody already on the team like Logan Stenberg. Now, with that being the case, I think you already know who I'm going to say, and this might come as a surprise to some people, but I believe the Detroit Lions should look to move on from Joe Dahl. Now, Joe Dahl is a very solid player, and do not get me wrong, I like Joe Dahl as a player. I think he's a very solid backup. I think if we need him to step in, he's a very solid rotational guy. He's a very solid depth piece that can be put in and and you're not expecting play to drop significantly from the starter to Joe Dahl. However, Joe Dahl, being a 5-year veteran on the Detroit Lions, only played in 27% of the snaps this season for the team, while his contract would suggest that he is playing much more. If we were to cut Joe Dahl right now from the Detroit Lions, we would save up to $3 million in cap space just from replacing the backup guard. And as I said, you could either put Logan Stenberg in there if you feel like he's developed enough to put at that guard position, or you can look at free agency to either bring him back on a smaller contract or go get another rotational depth piece at a much cheaper and a much better valued contract. Or if you don't like either of those two options, you could always go look towards the draft to get a late round guy to come in and be a rotational guy, be a backup on a very, very cheap deal that is nowhere near $3 million a season. Now, again, I don't think Joe Dahl is a bad player. In fact, I actually think he's a really solid player for the Detroit Lions, and I believe if he does hit the open market, I think there will be quite a few different teams looking to acquire his services. And while Joe Dahl, as I said, is not a bad player, Joe Dahl is not a bad guy, and is not a guy that if the Lions keep, I'm going to be upset about. If we keep Joe Dahl, I think that it'll still be an okay move. I think that I'm not going to be mad if we do end up keeping Joe Dahl on the roster. However, I don't think it's worth paying your backup guard $3 million to sit on the bench when you could very easily draft a rookie in the mid to late rounds for a much cheaper deal, a much cheaper contract, and still get similar play out of them. Again, I think all three of these moves are very realistic for the Detroit Lions. If the Lions were to make all of these moves happen, they would free up about almost $14 million in cap space with very, very limited repercussion as far as dead cap. If you want to go even farther than that, Nick Bawden, if you were to release him, would save you $850,000. Evan Brown, I don't even know who that is. If you were to cut him, would save you almost $1 million in cap space. So there are quite a few players and quite a few contracts on this team that the Lions can afford to get rid of. Guys that, like Desmond Trufant, likely will not get as much playing time as you would expect and would likely not live live up to the contract that he signed. Like I said, I'm putting Okudah, I'm putting Amani, I'm putting Justin Coleman, and I'm even putting Mike Ford in a starting role before I put Desmond Trufant there. As far as Nick Williams, I'll put Danny Shelton, I'll put John Pennicini, I'll put Deshaun Hand, I'll put Kevin Strong in front of him, so at best he's D-tackle 5. And then like I said, with Joe Dahl, I think he's just an average, below average guard. I think he's okay, I think he's solid. I think if you need him to step up for a few games, he can definitely do so. But Jonah Jackson, in my opinion, is better than Joe Dahl. Logan Stenberg, in my opinion, has a much higher ceiling than Joe Dahl, and if he has developed at all throughout his rookie season, I believe he could take over and be solid at that guard position. With this new regime, with this new coaching staff, with this new ideology and vision for the team, I do believe the Detroit Lions can move on from these players. And in fact, I believe the Detroit Lions need to move on from these players. All three of these players are average at best. All three of these players are players that we can upgrade over for much better value, much less money, and a much better contract. So with that being the case, with the Lions having some financial struggles with the cap space, with them looking to bring back Romeo Okwara, potentially Jared Davis, potentially Jamal Agnew, and Kenny Galladay, Brad Holmes is going to have to do a lot of maneuvering to get all of his players back that he wants to bring back in this free agent class. And cutting these three players, if you want to include, Nick Bawden and Evan Brown, those 5 players could go a long ways into helping you re-sign Kenny and re-signing Romeo Okwara and Jared Davis and Jamal Agnew to new deals to keep them here in Detroit if you do truly believe they are part of the future and part of the rebuild. Now, with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. If I missed anybody, please let me know in the comments down below. But to me, these are the 3 players the Detroit Lions need to release during this offseason. It would save us a lot of cap. It would not involve a lot of dead cap space for the Detroit Lions, and it would give the Lions an extra roster spot and more money to upgrade at the said position. Now, with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Again, if you disagree or you think there is somebody else that needs to be cut from this roster, please let me know in the comments below who it is and why you believe they should be released. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, I will obviously make a video letting every single person know. But until then, that's all I got for you guys right now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all tomorrow with more Lions content. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.